All right, Lions fan. I'm going to talk about Matthew Stafford for a second, and I don't want this video to get misinterpreted as like I'm not for Stafford to win this year with the Lions. Actually, I am, and I'm saying he is going to get them a Super Bowl, but it won't be off the shoulders of Matthew Stafford. It's going to ask the team or the road to the championship or the Super Bowl is going to require for Stafford to use his IQ versus his talent. That's something I don't think this organization has ever asked of Stafford. Quinn and Patricia is demanding that of Stafford to, in case in point, for them to win. They're going to ask him to regress, so to speak, and use his IQ. And I think Matthew Stafford's in the position of that based upon how he endured through his career. The game is slowing down, in other words. But I want to add this about Stafford's career. You know, we talk about he haven't had much pieces to play with. Is that a general manager's fault, or is that the general manager's fault, or is that an organizational fault? And what I mean by that, yeah, let's look at the Fords, and they're running the team as a franchise. It's a business first and foremost. It's not about competition. Competition is second, if not third. It's business first, business second, then competition. Competition is for the fans, right? Business is for the ownership to make money. And the second point of business is for the ownership to capitalize if they lose in the investment of actually trying to make the money. So actually to win for the fans, it's like third in line. Now, I say that to say this. When they drafted Ebron, was that for Stafford or was that for the organization? Now, I say that because Matthew Stafford is your cash cow. If Matthew Stafford doesn't throw the ball, even though the talent may be Megatron, if Matthew Stafford doesn't throw him the ball, who gives them the best revenue on their return other than Stafford? You drafted Calvin Johnson for what? All right. He's better than what you have with Roy Williams. He's better than what you have with Mike Williams and Charles Rogers, etc. All right, he's better than that. But let's look at it from a business standpoint. Matthew Stafford wasn't there yet, but you have to put people in the seats. When Matt Millen was in office, his guy allegedly was, I believe, DeMarcus Ware. I believe that was the guy he targeted. But he was hearing things among, I don't know if it was from the upper head or whatever, to go a different direction. And I believe the coach at the time was Mariucci. And Mariucci came from the West Coast offense, so having a whole bunch of receivers, I don't know about that. But the Lions' history, they have had their bread and butter off of what? The run and shoot. You're talking about from Herman Moore, Brett Perriman, Johnny Morton, David Sloan, and then of course you got the legend, and Barry Sanders with no quarterback. So their best success or their best return as a business came from throwing the ball. Now, if the Fords is looking at it from a competitive position, then they won't be throwing the ball. They will be running the ball. But they're looking at it from a business perspective. What's going to put people in the seats? Winning in a town that is bred off of what? Hard workers. They want to be entertained. Do they want to win? Yeah, if they win, that's a bonus. You know, but making the money is the significance of the deal. Make the money and even cover yourself if you're losing into the investment. I don't believe Eric Ebron was Mayhew's choice. I believe it was, when you take this position, it's going to give you a cushion, it's going to give you a job, whatever. All you have to do is make sure we don't lose money. And that's how I looked at the Force ran the franchise versus competition or competitiveness. This is why there's no explain why Matt Millen, the way he did ran the team, he was in there for 8 years. Explain that if it's not business. Explain reason why. Explain to me the reason why Mayhew was running the team if it's not business. Now, I don't know the over and under return on their an investment when those two, from a financial standpoint. I know they lost a lot, but people say like what they lose. All right, okay, your cash cows up under Millen and partial Mayhew was Stafford, Calvin Johnson, and Ndamukong Suh. That was your money. Your money, you could say that they did some investments with some spending with free agents like Reggie Bush or Joy Bell, not Joy Bell, Vanden Bosch, Tulloch, Burleson, and stuff like that. Glover Quinn, but those are small little margins of investment. Those are not big contracts. That's not going out to go get somebody like they did with Trey Flowers, or like they did with Justin Coleman, or like they did with Jesse James. Those were big moves. The Lions never made those type of moves when they had Sue, Calvin Johnson, and Matthew Stafford in a prime. Nor did they make those type of moves when they had Barry Sanders at his prime. So, like I said, it wasn't really about competition. If they won, so be it. That's like third in line. Number one is business. Make money. Number two, make sure you cover yourself of the investment of trying to make the money. And I believe that's what they did. And the third one is the competition if the fans get a winner, they get a winner. So be it. But the fans was coming off the first two. They was coming off the business. And there is no way this organization is the way it's in the shape that it's in if it wasn't a business move. Just like the whole thing with the whole the 50-year curse with the quarterback. I can't think of his name right now. That the great quarterback for the Lions when they was actually winning championships, and he told them, I guess they was at the place where they was going to trade, and I believe that's when the Fords brought the team, and of course it could have been some stuff behind the scenes. Who knows? It could have been money involved. Ultimately, like big money, like mob type money, whatever. But I believe he made the curse, or he made the statement, which is alleged the direction of the curse, that they would never win in 50 years, based upon them trading him, whatever. So the the organization have always been business first, competition third. Look at the teams that really wants to win but make money. They invest into it. Jerry Jones is an example of that. Even though it didn't work out, Daniel Snyder, I believe with the Washington Redskins. Let's see. Was he there when they was winning the titles? I don't know. I don't know. But winning is like cooler talk, or going to the yacht club and you talking about, yeah, we had a winner this year. That's nothing but the money. Remember, for majority of these owners, this is not their cash cow. You know what I'm saying? This is like a hobby, or it's like somebody who has a business, but they have a hobby that actually makes money. Like they have a business that's making six figures, but yet and still on the side they enjoy making cakes, pastries or something like that, and they start to sell them and they make money off of that. So that's how I look at the Lions franchise. Is just that it's a hobby on the side that makes money, but it's not the cash cow. It's not the Ford Motor Company. If the talk of the town, how it was about, or the talk of the league, or talk about the Lions, if if the way that people talk about the Lions in the media and everything else was talked about the Ford Motor Company the same way, there's no way they will be sitting still and running it the way that they running the Lions organization. So what I'm saying is, I don't blame the general manager. Matt Millen even said it that he should have went after his guy when he drafted. He missed the target when he drafted the wide receiver. I think it was Mike Williams, and he was being told to go a different direction, and I believe that was upper management. You gotta fill the seats. You gotta fill the seats. As much as the average fan, or let me say the sports fan, so happen to be a Lions fan, wants to see a winner. But I don't think the organization ever cared about winning. I think they always cared that it was a business. More so, for which the average fan probably do know. So I really can't blame a lot of the moves that the GM have made solely on them. Just like I had a little conversation with an individual about Stafford. They pro Stafford, and they basically said Stafford is the man. This team can't win without Stafford. And I said I totally disagree. You can win without Stafford. It's easy. All you gotta do is find like a poised quarterback. That's the problem. They never had one. Look what Wayne Fonte said. He said if I had Stafford, he would have won. So in other words, the quarterbacks that he had didn't have what Stafford had. It's what where Stafford is at in his career now. He didn't come into the league with that. He evolved in that 10 years. It took him 10 years to evolve. So in other words, what I'm saying is it took him 10 years to get to this point to now it where he's at. He made the team, not going there making a lot of commotion and everything else, but he actually made the team based upon his leadership to go ahead and to protect him. That's why he's an investment. Other than that, the Forest was banking off his arm talent, not as an investment, but his arm talent. As long as his talent is making money, they're good. But now, what I'm saying is, it's not about his arm. He is actually a leadership. So now they have to protect that investment because he's the only one that's bringing in money. There's nobody else. Nobody coming to see anybody else. They're not. You got rid of Calvin Johnson. You got rid of Ndamukong Suh. They're not coming to see anybody like they're coming to see Stafford. So you have to protect him. It's a business move. This is not about competition. Now, of course, the upper management will get a lot of slack where Stafford never had a run game. That's why he's not successful. But the organization never wanted him to have a run game. If the organization was about winning, like competitive, a competitive nature or a competitive franchise, they would have did what Jerry Jones did. Jerry Jones wants to make money, but at the same time, he want to look good doing it. So he spent like so many, I think it was like a huge contract to go get Deion Sanders away from the 49ers the year that the 49ers beat them in the NFC title game. Or he invested to his offensive line. He wants to make money, but he wants to look good doing it. So he builds Jerry World. But the Lions organization is not done like that. They want to make money. And then they put a little something on the side to protect them. So say, for example, the Lions got $30 million, right? In cap space. That $30 million is like emergency money just in case of the money that they invested to the players that they signed this year and last year is to cover that. It's to cover the loss. It's business. The Forest ran the team as a business, not as a competitional thing. If they won, they would have to, let me see, how can I say it? For the Lions to win, they would have to go beyond, above, like themselves. They would have to supersede past themselves to win. Because the organization is not built to win. It's not made to win. Now, when Quinn got here, he saved the Force a lot of money. So a person may say, like, no, he did. Yeah, he saved them a lot of money. He put people into the seats, which he did. Even though they're not winning, people are still coming to see them. He's not costing them any money. So why would they get rid of that? And plus, look what the money that they save on the cap. They're not in the tax of the lost tax bracket where you're talking about like where they over the limit and they have to basically go if they have a nest egg, they got to go into the next nest egg to make sure they cover their losses. No, this team is well and I mean as an organization from a financial standpoint, it has since the Fords taking over this team, it has always made money. So with that being said, going to the point about Stafford, you can win with Stafford. This go back to this as the average competitive fan. The Lions. You can win with Stafford, and they're going to prove it this year because they're actually going to they are protecting their investment. The Stafford is the investment. This is why you go get Calvin Johnson. Well, of course, Stafford. Let me see. How can I say it? Stafford came. Did Stafford come first before? No. Stafford came after Calvin. This is why. No, I'm sorry. This is why you get the Burleson. This is why you got the Reggie Bush. This is why you get everything else to go around Stafford, right? Not as winning losses, because you could have got something better than Burleson. You could have got something better than Reggie Bush. You could have put money into something else. They went the cheap route, right? Because you still want to. You're not trying to spend money to make money. They're trying to. And how can I say it? They used to call it kicking the can up the road. But if you kick it, it's like was it borrowing from Peter to pay Paul? It's that type of deal. And if you're really good at it, you'll get a return back on your value on your investment, like they did with Wagner. They cut him before it got to the point where it cost them. They got rid of a player before it cost them. That's getting return on your value, and you take that and you put into not into a competitive player or that's going to get you over the top. You're going to get that to a player that's going to be subpar. That's going to keep you afloat, keep the people coming, but it's not enough where it's going to cost us down the road. That's why you don't go after the Chris Jones. That's why you don't go after those big name players and give them what they want because you can't afford it. The Ford is like this is a business. And I say all that to say this, that as much as the average fan, the average Lion fan, may give Stafford these accolades like he's this savior, and they said like, well, the Lions, they can't do nothing without Stafford. I'm like, well, in 10 years, what have Stafford led them to? You got the comeback games, you got the ice in his veins, you got the what, the fake. Um, um, the fake snap, whatever, the clock snap. You got that one, and you have him coming back in a few games and stuff like that. Okay, that's the best you have. And then the fan would say, this is why I can't ride with the whole Stafford is great. They say this that he had nothing to work with. He had no offensive line. He the way he approached the game, he gave you nothing to build with. He is just now maturing enough where he's putting the organization in a space where you have to protect him. That's why they invest into the offensive line. That's why they invest into the run game. That's why they invest into all these different things. They went to Stafford because the organization went to the general manager and say, give Stafford whatever he wants. So if you recall, I don't know if it was Quinn or Patricia. I think it was Quinn. Went to Stafford. I think it was last offseason. What can we get you? Because the upper management is saying protect. Now that could have been Mrs. Ford could have said like protect Stafford. William Clay Ford looked at it at a totally different perspective. He didn't go out the way to make sure Stafford was protected. They didn't ask Stafford what he wanted up on a Clay Ford. Up on a Martha, they did. So it changes the whole dynamic because I think she likes Stafford. So she's there to protect him, right? So I'm saying that to say this, that Stafford is above average quarterback in his league. The league now is mediocre. I grew up in the '80 era. So I didn't grow up in the '70s. So I grew up in the '80s and I saw that kind of football. And then people they said like, well, Stafford didn't have no run game. I'm like, well, Marino didn't have a run game. But if somebody say he had a Hall of Fame quarterback, okay. If the quarterback if the coach is a Hall of Famer, right? But he's not a Hall of Famer until he did something that was worth being a Hall of Fame for. So he could draw up the plays and everything else, but the player still has to execute it. Now, I'm not trying to say that Matthew Stafford had the best coordinator, but that goes to my point. The organization didn't look at it as an investment until Stafford became like this cash cow. Until they start looking at the numbers of his jersey sales and so forth, that he is a guy that is bringing in money. So now you have to protect that. Before that, Stafford was a regular guy. I mean, I'm sorry, they looked at him just a talent. And the average fan may looked at him a little different, like he need help. But the from a business perspective, he didn't show anything. Like I said, the Forest didn't look at the organization like it was a competitive thing, like they wanted to win. They could say like, yeah, we do everything to win. Yeah, we do everything to win, but we want to do everything to win, up under a certain measure. And the measure is business first, number one, then business number two, then competitive nature of basically trying to win or a title or something like that. If that was the case, when they went to the NFC title game in '91, how come they didn't keep that franchise? I mean, that team together. How come they let it fall apart? You on the cusp. All you have to do is build off of that. You built it up to that point to '91, and you go against a more of a experienced team and the Redskins, but you let all the pieces fall apart because you don't want to pay anybody, because it's not about winning. It was about making money. Stafford just finally put them in a position where his body is breaking down and they have to protect their investment. He is a cash cow. Ain't nobody come here for nobody else. They're not. You're talking about a hardworking city or a hardworking state, and they basically what? They want to be entertained for them, get their mind off of what they're working from. And it had always been, ever since the Ford has been, because the Ford is part of that contributing towards their hard working with the Ford Motor Company. So they understand it. And if anybody said like the daughter's going to do something different, no, she's going to treat it like a business. The Fords is one thing the Fords will always do. It's business, and then competitiveness. In other words, business first, business second, which means to protect your investment, and then lastly is the third one, and then is the competitive sport. And then, in other words, if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. It doesn't matter. What was the revenue? What was the over and over revenue? Did we cover ourselves? How much of a loss? Whatever. They only care about the money. And I'm not going against them. No, it's business. Bobby Lane, that's the guy who I'm thinking about. Bobby Lane. He is the guy that basically swore. Well, I guess when the Forest had just bought it, but of course, they got rid of him, and I want to say it was some behind the scenes stuff, but whatever. Who knows? I don't care. But Stafford's going to win, and how they're going to win is not because of him. It's going to be because of a stout defense that's going to be led by Trey Flowers, Danny Shelton, Jamie Collins, Harmon, Trufant, and all the other players is going to fill in. The guy who I'm banking on to be a stud this year is Jeff Okuda. And for all the Lions fan that says like he needs to be locked down number one, no, he does not. Only thing he needs to do is lock down the number two receiver. He needs to lock down the number two receiver. Because the league is going with what? Two good receivers now. It's expanding. Because everybody's trying to keep up with the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs. So everybody's trying to get, multiple pieces that the quarterback can be whatever to be competitive. So if all you have to do is lock down the number two, you got the rest of the DBs to zone to the number one. And you can eliminate that altogether. You got your linebackers. You're trying to take off much pressure off your linebackers as possible. Because sadly, I'm not going to say sadly, but the strength of this team is based off their linebackers. The linebackers is the strength. People want to say it's the defensive line. I disagree. I think it's the linebackers. Now, I'll use that as an example. Mike Singletary, Lawrence Taylor, Ray Lewis. And if you want to go with the, I don't know too much about the '70s. I can't think of his name. I want to say Randy White, but I think he was on the defensive line, and that was the Cowboys. But anyway, Ray Lewis, Singletary, um, and Lawrence Taylor. What position did they play? And their defense was based off of them, right? Your linebacker is your strongest unit. Why? Because you can't beat it deep. In other words, you can't beat it deep if the linebackers do their job. And you can't run the ball if the linebackers do their job. Now, the offensive line may be a little bit more stout than the defensive line, so there may be a different, there may be an advantage to the offensive line, but your linebacker covers them, right? So, but it looks like if you have an elite secondary, if you have an elite secondary, or you have a great mass of numbers of DBs in the secondary, that takes the strain off your linebackers. Now your linebackers just fill their gaps and just wreak havoc in that area. That's why guys like Tavai, Jamie Collins is like great. They're smart players. They're instinctive players. And if you got, I'll say the Lions have like I would say a good solid five in their secondary. They're constantly be in rotation. Between safeties and cornerbacks, you could rotate constantly, whatever, and it will always have a legit like five in the backfield. So I don't know whatever your front seven would be, but of course it could be let me see, a 5-2, something like that. You can run so many different things with a good defense, a good secondary, and that's what I'm making the point. When you got Harmon, who's a closer, you got Trufant, who's a good man to man cover skill, and you bring in a guy who is basically known for being the best cover man to man, and number three, so you have him lock on number two. You got Harmon, Walker, Coleman, Trufant zoning the rest of the field, right? So, in other words, they are your Ed Reeds. Those five players is your Ed Reed, is your one Ed Reed. And you make your Ed Reed and your Ty Law. You make that, or your Darrell Reeves and or Lloyd Malloy. You make that work. You just play smart football. It's baseball. It's position, it's technique, and all that, but it's baseball based off instinct, and that's how they're going to win off of a stout defense. Anyway, I was rambling, and all that good stuff. But the point of me saying that is the Lions are going to win, but they're going to win off of a stout defense. The average fan is looking for names, or they're looking for stats. I don't. I look at like I look at the psyche of the individual, because it's technically a chess game, right? So that's psychological. It's not talent. Talent can get you to the hump, but it won't get you over the hump. It's like Stafford. Like my point is, Stafford can get you to the hump, but he can't get you over the hump, because now you're asking him to tap into something area that he never had to do on a pro level. I don't know if he had to do it in Georgia, which was be a smart cerebral quarterback versus just throwing how you feel. Like when he first came to the league, he was very nonchalant. He's a party guy, you know what I'm saying? So he just throw it, whatever. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So a lot of the times the players made Stafford look good because he threw a lot of bad pass and bad coverage and everything else.